Welcome to Twisted States, where we take a look week by week, state by state, at some of America's most nefarious killers, elusive cryptids, and bizarre mysteries. I'm your host, Reagan, and this is Montana was the 41st state to be admitted into the Union on November 8th of 1889. Montana is known as Big Sky Country, the Treasure State, Land of the Shining Mountains, and the Last Best Place. But it has no official nickname. The economy is primarily based on agriculture, including ranching and cereal grain farming. Other significant economic resources include oil, gas, coal mining, and lumber. And they're really starting to get more into tourism these days, with nearly 13 million annual tourists visiting Glacier National Park, Yellowstone National Park, Beartooth Highway, Flathead Lake, Big Sky Resort, and other attractions. Montana is located in the Mountain West subregion of the western United States, bordered by Idaho to the west, North Dakota and South Dakota to the east, Wyoming to the south, and by the Canadian provinces of Alberta, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan to the north. It is the fourth largest state by area, the 17th least populous state, and the third least densely populated state. The western half of Montana contains numerous mountain ranges, while the eastern half is characterized by western prairie terrain and badlands, with more smaller mountain ranges found throughout the state. In all, 77 named ranges are part of the Rocky Mountains. All right, so we're going to take a look at Shoebox Annie and Cece Skidmore. Let's get started first with what their actual names were. It was Mary Eleanor Smith and DeCastro Earl Meyer. They were a mother and son, and they were living in Anaconda, Montana. And they were always kind of characters. They always were kind of a little bit of a force to be reckoned with. Meyer had quite an extensive arrest record. He spent about 14 years in and out of prison, getting arrested quite frequently for car theft, selling stolen bonds. I mean, just doing a lot of shady things. There's not as big of a paper trail as far as Smith goes, but I'm sure she probably had been in some kind of troubles along the way as well. It all came to a head when they were arrested in 1928, driving a stolen vehicle. But we're going to backtrack a little bit and go over some of their earlier shenanigans that came about with some letters that were written by Mary Smith while she was incarcerated, implicating her and her son in more than one heinous crime. So the first thing that comes up that they did, there wasn't a whole lot, like chronologically it was really hard to find like information, and this was kind of a struggle, but we're going to do our best here. Apparently, sometime in 1920, first off, Meyer was arrested for car theft in 1914 and spent some time in prison. And then when he got out in 1920, he basically invited a man to his house. He apparently Larson and Mayer sold some oil stocks belonging to Larson, and shortly after that, really strange. Anyway, but they made the sale together for whatever reason. They went and sold Larson's oil stocks. I'm not sure why or what the point to all that was. And shortly after doing that, Meyer invited Larson over for a home-cooked meal. And that was the last time that he was seen alive. So apparently they invited him to the house on East Commercial Avenue in Anaconda, and his body was never found. So yeah, and then after that, uh, there was a woman named Dorothy Lacasse that was also invited to visit, and she showed up at their home on East, you know, on the East Commercial Residence, and she also disappeared. Anaconda and Butte police worked on a theory that Larson and the woman had been slain and their bodies chopped up and the flesh destroyed by acid while the bones had been burned or buried, but they weren't able to prove it. But both of those people disappeared under the, you know, suspicion of being murdered by these two lovelies. Shoebox Annie, Mary Eleanor Smith, got her nickname Shoebox Annie because she walked around and she was carrying a shoebox full of soap that she used to sell to people. She would show up at their house to visit and she would peddle her soap and not leave until they bought some soap. And she also would steal items from their house and slip them into her shoebox. And she had a pet magpie that also liked shiny things and would steal jewelry and things from people when she went to visit. Yeah. Classy. She also kept her moonshine, which was illegal at the time, in her shoebox. So that's where that nickname came from. And as far as DeCasto, he gave himself all these little fancy nicknames and aliases to try to evade police. But in the end, that really didn't work so well. He ended up unaliving himself in prison after his mom confessed and he knew that he was facing extensive time looking at life in prison for his record and everything that they had done and being a habitual criminal. So, yeah. There was another person named Randall, and I'm not sure if that was a surname or if that was, what the deal was. That was the only name given was Randall. That Smith also said that they had murdered, but there was no real information as to why they had murdered him or what the deal was. Just that they had disposed of his body in a stone quarry in Idaho. So that one was kind of a mystery. What was their final undoing, though, was in September of 1928, September 14th of 1928. They were pulled over in Oakland, California, and they were driving a stolen car that belonged to one James Eugene Bassett. Now, James Eugene Bassett was nowhere to be found. James Eugene Bassett actually was missing. He was a wealthy Baltimore, Maryland man who was in Seattle, Washington, and they ran into him because he was selling his car. So they reached out to him, invited him to their home, and they were supposed to make the deal and purchase a car. And instead, they convinced him to send a telegraph to his sister. And after he telegraphed his sister in Washington, she lived in another town. I'm not sure the name of it. Anyway, but he sent the telegraph, and then Meyer booped him on the head with a hammer. And Smith said that she left the room. He hit him with a hammer. She came back in. The guy was gurgling, so she stepped out again, and Meyer booped him again to put him out of his misery. And she was very proud of the fact that he didn't let the man suffer. So, yeah, wow. such a polite, guy. What? Anyway, but they took the vehicle, and they got pulled over in Oakland. And in Oakland, when they got pulled over, the vehicle was searched. And in the vehicle, they found a poison gas gun, which I'll get into in just a minute. But they also found paperwork and things that belonged to Bassett. And they were just like, oh, we just bought the car from the guy and whatever. And it's like, well, then why are his personal effects, here? And they never found his body. When she was writing these confession letters later on when they were in prison, she told them that after he was booped in the head with a hammer, they put his body in a galvanized tub, and then Meyer disassembled him with a saw or whatever. And once they got him all pulled apart, put him in bags and disposed of his body north of Seattle in the woods, and then put his head and hands down like a gopher hole or whatever, so it'd be less likely to be found. The gas gun they were in possession of was made by the Pacific Arms Company, a San Francisco business whose president, John Mannerstam of Albany, was convicted of illegal possession of firearms. It was made of a rubber composition with steel-lined chambers and used shells similar to shotgun shells, but much smaller. And with this weapon, detectives said several persons could be killed at one shot, leaving no telltale marks of murder. So you just gas people to death, basically. I've never really looked into that. That's fascinating. Yikes. But yeah, they also, in that car, they also had a scrapbook of different crimes across the country. And I don't know if he was like admiring other people's work or if that was stuff that he had done. Meyer, I'm not sure, but he definitely had a little book, little with some memos of things that had gone along the way and happened. Yeah, these people, real fancy, absolutely horrible. They were so bad that even several years later, the reputation of them, they left quite a mark on Anaconda, Montana, and all the way into the 50s. Even though their house had been torn down at that point, a lot of people still avoided the area, and they really considered, those like where her house was or whatever. She left quite a mark and became kind of an urban legend type person. This crazy woman that did all these heinous things with her son across the country. Just absolutely insane. And it's really funny that like they went all this time and did all these things, and it was like everybody knew that they were like really off, but I don't think anybody really, like, you know what I mean, like people like start rumors and whatever, but they really like, they actually killed people and they actually like dismembered people and got rid of their bodies and stuff. Just absolutely heinous couple of people. Wow. Yeah, so they left quite the mark on quiet little Anaconda, Montana. And that community will never be the same thanks to these two lovelies. All right, so there you have it, and that's week 10 for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and listening, or watching and listening, depending on where you're observing this at. And I will see you next week. I'm not sure what state. I haven't decided quite yet. I know that this week was a little short, but it's also really late, and I've been trying to. I've been trying to. Oh gosh, so much has been going on. I was helping somebody clean up a place for a person that I wish she would have reached out to me like 6 months, a year ago even, and we could have got things like repaired there and straightened out before it got to the point where it did. She no longer lives there, which is good because that place honestly could be condemned in the shape that it's in right now. But I'm trying really hard to clean it up and help as much as I possibly can. But I don't handle the heat very well, and it's been in the 1 teens all week. So 2 days over there, I got some mild heat stroke, slept a lot, drinking a lot of fluids, and doing everything I can to try to take care of myself. I lost a lot of weight over the course of 2 days. And definitely took care of that water retention problem I was having because I sweated all that out, all of it. But the downside is that I have been sleeping basically since then. I'm awake about 15 minutes at a time. I do a little bit, get a couple things done, and then I pass right back out. I'll be like, okay, well, let me just, I'm going to take, I sat right here in this chair, which is like a wooden kitchen table chair, and passed out. Like, that's where I'm at right now. It's just, it's bad. Fell asleep sitting up, and not my best look. Not my best move either. So, I ended up, I just crawled in bed. I was like, I'm just going to go lay back down. It's fine. But I'm getting myself together, and hopefully everything will be back on track over the next few days. I can get back to what I was doing, because I have a lot of sewing projects that I'm working on and things like that, and a sewing machine that I swear is haunted. Like, there's just no way it's not. I can't begin to tell you the strangeness, the weirdness of this thing. But if you check out my Disruptive Girl YouTube channel, you can find out more about that. I got some videos coming up I'm going to be editing and things like that. But anyway, I'm going to go. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening. Check me out on Instagram at Twisted States, and throw me a follow, throw me a message if you have anything, any input or whatever. Please hop on over there and let me know what you think. And if you're listening to this on whatever major platform, you can also watch. And I'm finally starting to show my face and my messy room. So if you want to check out my messy room and my messy face, because I didn't put any makeup on today, you can check me out over at Twisted States on YouTube. And yeah, so there you have it. There's this week's episode. I will talk to you later. Have a wonderful rest of your week, weekend. Do your thing. And yeah, we'll just keep on keeping it weird and doing the thing. And there goes the fireworks. Are you kidding me? I love my neighbors. All right.